13th Delaware County Transportation Improvement District meeting. If we could all please rise, if you're able, for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, good morning, everybody. I'm Tracy Davies, the Vice Chair. Next to me, I have Cy Keeley, who's the Secretary and Treasurer, and then we have the public members of our board, Pat Blaney and Tom Price. Our chairperson, Chris Bauserman, is unable to be here today. And also for our board members, just a staffing change. Brandy Wilson with the Commissioner's Office, she left to move to Florida, and so you all remember Allie Glusich, she's back in helping us out with the TID. All right, first on the agenda, we have the election of officers for the term of May 13th to 2026 to May 12th, 2027. I'll leave it up to the group if we want to do a slate of nominations,
I
or
would
if
like
we
to
would.
make a motion to appoint the current officers to another term on this board.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? That would be continuing to have Chris Bauserman as chairperson, myself, Tracy Davies, as vice chairperson, and Cy Keeley as the secretary treasurer. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Great. Do we have anyone from the public who would like to comment today? No? Okay. Next, we have approval of minutes from the March 11th, 2026 meeting. I don't know if you've had an opportunity to review those minutes, but if there aren't any changes or corrections, I'll take a motion to approve the minutes.
Move to accept the minutes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Do we have any reports from our board members today? No? Nothing at this time? Okay. Secretary Treasurer's report.
The current cash balance is $5,833,834.44. And the auditors are currently auditing us and wrapping up, so hopefully at the next board meeting, I'll be able to report on that.
Any questions?
Move to accept the Secretary Treasurer's report.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to staff report and maybe some introductions. Rob Riley.
All right, well, good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair. It is my pleasure to recognize some of our summer interns. I'll ask them to stand up, and I'm going to pick on them a little bit and ask them to tell us their name and where they're from, where they're going to school, and anything else you want to share with us. Start with the guy on the end. He's one of our...
If you could
I
come to the
wanna point out-
podium, so, because we
Yeah,
are,
go ahead.
for our massive viewing audience, we want to make sure that they can hear you.
I face this way?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Will Music. I live in Ostrander, so just west of Delaware. This is my second summer with the county. It's been a great experience, and I am studying civil engineering at Ohio University. I'll be a junior next year.
Welcome. Good to see you. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Nate Hickman. I'm from Cardington, Ohio, so just north of Delaware. This is my second summer interning here, and I go to Ohio University where I'm studying environmental science, and I'm heading into my senior year. So,
Great.
thank you.
Well, welcome back. Thank you. Hello.
Hi, I'm Cadence Ford. I live in Delaware City. This is also my second year interning with the county, and I go to the University of Pittsburgh for chemical engineering, and I will be a junior next year.
Great. Well, welcome back.
Thank
It's
you.
nice to see 3 people back. We must not have scared them away, so good job, engineer's office.
Yeah, we're very glad to have our young folks back, and it's Chris and I remark from time to time, it's kind of nice to get some young blood in the office and feel the energy, I guess, of youthful exuberance, I guess. So, but it's been fun. We have a lot of projects lined up for our interns this summer, and it'll be fun. So, so I will take a few moments just to run through the staff report since the last meeting. So, as you know, we have a number of active projects. Just run through these quickly. I know you're all aware of these current projects. Silicon Heartland regional projects. These are the 2 roundabouts on County Line Road, Delaware Licking. Those are currently under construction. We are working currently at Center Village Road. That should be hopefully done and wrapped up by July of this year. The crews will then move on to the Fancher Road intersection and have that done hopefully in September. I-71, 36, 37 interchange. If you've driven past, you know there's a lot of activity, a lot of progress has been made, especially in the last month or so. All the new bridge beams were set over about the last month for the new overpass. And so that's moving along very well. Still on schedule for completion third quarter of 2027. Phase B and C. Phase B is the next segment to the west that will run west to 3Bs and K. ODOT is currently working on right-of-way acquisition for that phase, and we do expect that will be ready to go to construction in 2027. So more to come on that. Currently working through the property purchase and some utility relocation later this year. And then last but not least, Phase C, which is the final segment to the west. Plans are currently in design. We will be probably moving into right-of-way acquisition about a year from now, year and a half from now on that phase, and tentatively starting construction in 2029. So if there's any questions on that, that's kind of a snapshot of where we're at.
Rob, any updates on funding for Phase B?
Not yet. You'll note in the report that ODOT did apply for what the Federal Highway Administration calls their BUILD program. These are grants that are allocated directly by the US DOT to states and local agencies. ODOT submitted for that program, have not yet heard back on the success of that application, but we'll keep our fingers crossed on that.
Any questions? Continue on, please.
Moving on, Orange Road Railroad grade separation. We continue to make progress on that project. No significant updates. We'll be going into acquisition of right-of-way for the remaining properties that are needed probably later this year, with construction starting 2028. And then finally, Stockwell Road improvements. We do have a resolution for your consideration today, which would authorize the county engineer to go out to bid. But the plans have been completed, the right-of-way has been acquired, and we are at this time really just awaiting the OPWC grant agreement award, which typically comes out around the 1st of July. That would go to Trenton Township. Trenton was the applicant for that in cooperation with the other 3 townships. But pending, we would like to go to bid on that, get the bids advertised and opened prior to that time. So at our July meeting, we would hope to have a contract ready to award at that time. Moving on to potential future projects, and I say potential because these are not yet solidified, but I've spoken to you about 2 of these 3. Bunny Station Road, again, this is involving the 5th Olentangy Local School District High School. The work would involve widening Bunny Station Road for turn lanes into the school. Because of where their entrances sit, we've had some discussions with the school district. We've had discussion with Liberty Township and City of Delaware about trying to make that section of road a 3-lane section with a continuous center turn lane, basically starting at the Somo Parkway roundabout going west, not quite a half a mile, roughly a half a mile, which would address what we know is the case is high schools generate a lot of traffic. There's a lot of cars coming in and out throughout the day. And so having that turn lane would make that really a better situation for really everyone. So I believe we talked in brief at the last meeting about the idea of the TID assisting Olentangy schools and the townships with acquisition of right-of-way. And I had a recent meeting with Olentangy local schools as well as Liberty Township. I think there's concurrence and I think the time is quickly approaching where we will, as a board, need to make a decision on whether we want to do that. And I would say this, we make every effort when we try to purchase right-of-way to make a fair offer, negotiate a fair settlement. Sometimes that happens. I would say the majority of the time that does happen. We're able to reach agreement. Sometimes it does not. Sometimes the offer and the owner's expectation of compensation are too different, and so that sometimes results in us having to move forward with the project, filing what you may know is called appropriation, and then moving ahead with the project while we continue to try to negotiate a settlement. So I bring that up because that would be, if the board does wish to proceed in this manner, that would be something this board would need to consider. If there is any appropriation action, I believe we would work with the prosecutor's office to either get representation directly from the prosecutor's office or potentially hire independent counsel if needed. I have not gotten that far yet, but I did want to make you aware of that possibility. So really, this is still in the discussion phase. I'm not recommending any action today, but I have outlined in the report sort of the framework of a potential agreement, and I'm interested in hearing your feedback on that.
Question, in the report, it says Olentangy would acquire the necessary right-of-way, so that's not the case?
If it does say that,
It
that
said-
is an error.
It says Olentangy to obtain and pay for plans, surveys, legal descriptions, et cetera, to acquire necessary right-of-way.
They would, yes, they would, Olentangy Local Schools is paying for the design and the actual plans and right-of-way plans, and as well as the legal descriptions, all the paperwork that would be needed to acquire the right-of-way. They would not actually be doing the right-of-way acquisition per se. That would be something that we would be doing under this proposal. I'm sorry for that further confusion there. But the school district would be reimbursing the TID. I want to make sure that's clear. The arrangement we've discussed to date has been that Olentangy would reimburse the TID. Olentangy, they're in the business of educating kids. They're not necessarily in the business of following all the statutory procedures that go with acquiring and purchasing road right-of-way. And so that's really the source of this discussion.
If the TID were not to do it, who would be the entity that would do it? The township?
I think
The
that
city?
would be the next option, would be for the two townships, because there's two townships involved, Delaware Township and Liberty. That would be sort of the next option.
In that case, they're still relying on the county engineer's office as you're their engineering.
Correct.
Yeah.
Chair.
Yes.
The other, 5 schools that we built it was built for Olentangy, there was no need for us to step in on those, was there?
There was not. I would call this somewhat of a unique circumstance because it's on a township line road, partially within the city. more jurisdictions on this than is typical. You'll recall the project we did on Beanaller a couple of years ago. That was a case where there was really only, I believe there were two parcels involved. The county did at that time step in. The engineer's office handled the acquisition of right-of-way on that. And then you'll recall the TID, we handled the construction contract, were reimbursed by the school district as well as townships and the OPWC grant. So you're right, Tom. This is something different for sure.
Does the property just in front of the school in the picture here then doesn't extend onto Sawmill where the 3-lane or the 3rd lane will be planned for?
So if you look at the graphic where it says entrance 2, from that portion going east towards the roundabout, that's currently 2 lanes. It starts to widen out once you get to, you can kind of see where it hits the field just to the north and west of the roundabout. That's where it goes to what I'd call a full 2-lane section. The plan will be to kind of blend into that, stop the 3-lane section where it starts, you hit the median or the splitter island, it would go back to a 2-lane section. But there would be, under the proposed improvement, a continuous 3-lane section, essentially from the west end of that splitter island all the way west across the school frontage.
So there'd be right-of-way acquisition there too.
Yes.
I understand the need for someone to step up to the plate. Not that I couldn't get there. I'm a little hesitant for the TID board to be taking property if it gets to that situation. But I think maybe if we had more details and any kind of inclination, if neighbors are supportive, not supportive, it might be helpful.
And that's fine, Madam Chair. I certainly not looking for a decision today. This feedback is very helpful. I completely understand the concern. This is not something that TID has really done to date, acquire property. And if you're going to do it, you have to be committed to do it, because it doesn't help to get partway through it and realize I have 1 or 2 folks that I just can't get agreement with, and so the project can't move ahead. So what I can tell you is the district and their engineer are working on the plans. They will have probably more details as we're moving ahead in the next 2 months. I can certainly report back to you with maybe some more detail.
Do you know if they've had conversations with any of the adjacent neighbors yet?
I don't. I
Okay.
don't know that.
They might be very well supportive. I don't know.
Yes.
I would hope, because, something to alleviate the traffic in front of their homes. Questions,
No,
comments?
I'm good.
Okay. Well,
Does that give you enough feedback?
It does. I appreciate that. Again, I do expect over the next couple of months we'll have some more details with respect to the extent of any right-of-way acquisition as the engineer moves through the design, and I can certainly report back to you at the July meeting what I know at that time. Certainly not a decision we need to make in the next 2 months. I don't want this to be come to a point where it's a do or die situation. I don't think any of us want
Surprise.
that.
Yeah, no. Appreciate the early heads up.
Yeah, I got one other thought. So the road upgrade you're talking about, the 3-lane section, as well as all the improvements in front of the school, is the school's intention to pay for all that?
So the tentative plan we've discussed, at least in concept, would be that one of the townships, and the last discussion with Liberty Township, they expressed some willingness to be the applicant. Similar arrangement to what was done on Stockwell, what was also done on Beanaller, where a township steps forward, makes an application to OPWC, and then, as you may know, the county offered to grant assistance, basically to match the local shares from each local agency. That can add up to a pretty big amount once you start getting multiple agencies putting in money, the county's matching share plus the OPWC funds. And this would be, I think, a pretty competitive project because it's the traffic volumes, the scope of the work is intended for safety and traffic mitigation. So I think this would fare pretty well in the application process. So, but yet in concept, the school district would basically make up any remaining share of the project cost.
Thank you.
All right.
So with that, I'll move on to the next project. No significant, Plum Road, so you're aware, if you've been past that area recently, there is one housing development that is under construction. There's at least one other, I'd say medium-sized development that is planned and will start within the next year or so. They're currently running sanitary sewer for that. So we will be seeing some traffic increases on Plum Road. This is another case where it's a split jurisdiction. The township line falls on the center of the road, and so you actually have 4 townships involved, much like Stockwell. So I think the TID is in a very good position to assist when it comes to, maybe when it comes to construction, maybe not for right-of-way acquisition. We're not there yet, I guess is what I'm saying, but I did want to get out ahead of this, make sure you're aware some of these discussions are happening, and if you do have feedback or thoughts, I'm certainly open to that.
So the intent's to upgrade all the way from Africa Road to State Route 3?
More than likely in phases, Pat. I think
Yeah.
the first phase would likely include the intersection at 3Bs and K and Plum Road. That's probably the most urgent need of improvement.
Yeah.
It's a three-legged intersection with stop control. The turning radii are bad. You've got a lot of school bus traffic going through there. It's a narrow section of road, so more than likely the first section would go from Africa Road to what we think would be potentially a roundabout at that intersection, and then potentially future phases onto the east from that point.
Okay. Thanks.
So again, I'll keep you up to date as we have more discussions on that. And then the third project I wanted to at least present, again, this is an introduction, no decisions, and frankly, not much planning has happened to date, but I do anticipate working ahead. We've had some discussions with Village of Galena regarding Vans Valley Road. You may be aware that the Miller Farms development, which is kind of right at the corner of Sunbury Road and Vans Valley, includes about 385 homes being developed by MI Homes. A lot of traffic coming out of that area. There's already traffic on Vans Valley Road. This will certainly add to that. So we're in some early discussions with the village about potentially upgrading that section of road. There's a couple of there's one very sharp curve right at Joe Walker Road, and then there's another that's less than desirable as you go towards Sunbury Road. So again, this is more of a kind of heads up that we're having these discussions. I do think the TID's ability to potentially finance upfront costs with reimbursement from multiple sources puts us in a unique, helpful position.
Question on
yes.
that. I assume MI submitted a traffic impact study. Do you know what the village was requiring of the developer?
Yes, so the development does include 2 accesses. One road goes out to Sunbury Road. That required and has already, the turn lane for that entrance has already been installed or constructed. Okay. The second entrance is off of Vans Valley Road, goes to the north from the development. Rather than having MI Homes construct just a turn lane for that particular entrance, we agreed to accept a contribution in lieu of building that turn lane, which could be rolled into either this project or some other project that benefits that development. MI Homes was amenable to that, and we felt it was the best scenario because we knew that at some point Vans Valley would have to be upgraded. They have also dedicated the right-of-way that would be needed for this improvement. And so that's one other benefit, is that's taken care of.
And then that intersection of Joe Walker and Vans Valley, whose jurisdiction is that? Is it a mixed one, or is it Galena's?
The intersection itself is actually entirely within the village limits, but you don't have to go very far east or
Okay.
west before it comes back to being a county road in this case. So the county, we have a vested interest in seeing this project advance from a county highway standpoint, but I think this body has the possibility of being very helpful to help accumulate some of those funding sources and advance something.
There's already a lot of traffic in that area.
Yes. So again, nothing today. Wanted to keep you,
I think Tom had a question.
yes, sorry, Tom.
What was the process on Stites Road when we opened, or we took that curb out?
So Stites Road was entirely county funded. There was a developer contribution from Liberty Grand. They built a new intersection right at the S-curve, rather than the developer trying to shoehorn a turn lane in, which they really couldn't because the right-of-way limitations and the geometry. It would have been a much larger improvement. The county accepted a contribution in lieu of building that turn lane, rolled that into the project that we completed recently.
So similar.
Similar.
Thank you.
Okay.
So with that, that is what I know about our current projects. Moving on to next items, we already took care of our election of officers, and I don't believe there's anything else I had to share with you. I did, you'll recall that we submitted an application for the ODOT TID grant program back in March. I did run into Eddie King. Eddie is the ODOT Jobs and Commerce representative for Central Ohio. He did share that the state is still reviewing those applications and hopes to make an announcement sometime soon. So no word yet, but we'll keep our fingers crossed. I think that was, I'm biased, but I think that was a pretty competitive application given what's happening in the area and the magnitude of the project and the relatively small ask in terms of the total project cost. So I'll share anything I hear on that.
Great.
With that concludes my report. Thank you.
All right, any other questions for Rob? I also, before we go on to our next item, wanted to acknowledge that Commissioner Benton is here today, so thank you for joining us. And next on our agenda, we have discussion of the cybersecurity policy requirements, and we have Chris Betts from our prosecutor's office.
Good morning, board members.
Good morning.
Christopher Betts with the prosecutor's office on behalf of Melissa Schiffel, Delaware County Prosecutor. I appreciate you having me here this morning. I can't believe we're talking about summer interns already. I mean, I'm glad it's summer, but this year has flown by so far.
It has.
In any event, the legislature enacted under House Bill 96 back in the last half of last year, revised code 9.64, which requires all political subdivisions to have a cybersecurity policy. It's kind of strange that we're talking about this with this board because this board doesn't own or maintain, to my knowledge, at least in discussions with Rob, any computer networks, computers, et cetera. Probably some data that's maintained as far as this board is concerned, but everything else is sort of maintained under the umbrella of the county through the engineer's office or other offices. So it's kind of interesting that we're talking about this, but this still applies to the TID in the sense that the TID is a political subdivision, at least as that's defined under the statute. It's a body, corporate and politic, that's smaller than the state, and all of those are required to have cybersecurity policies under the new statute. So I just started discussing this with Rob yesterday as to where we go with this. The requirements were, the statute became effective on September 30th of last year, and we need to have, it talks in terms of a cybersecurity program, which really equates to a policy. What I have understood is that the auditor is going to start looking for this, at least as far as the counties were concerned and the cities were concerned, at the beginning of 2026. The other political subdivisions, which would include this board, they're going to start looking for that starting July 1st of 2026. So it's something we need to kind of hop on and get done. Certainly don't want to create anything that's cumbersome or burdensome to this board, but also want to comply with the statute. So one of the things that Rob and I had talked about and are potentially looking into, and we'll discuss more before the July meeting, is whether we can go ahead and adopt, or this board can adopt what the county has adopted. My understanding is that Steve Lewis, who is in charge of IT for the county, has created a policy for this. And that's something that we could look at, potentially going ahead and adopting rather than reinventing the wheel. And something that if the board at some point does own its own computers, computer infrastructure, et cetera, that can be implemented and used. But we'll need to see what's in there. I know one of the things that Rob was concerned about was making sure that any vendors or contractors that the board would contract with have sufficient policies or programs in place for cybersecurity. I'm not sure exactly. I have not seen specifically what's in Steve Lewis's policy, the one that he drafted for the county, but we could take a look at that and see if that is covered in there as well. Okay. It's not something that is specifically, as far as vendors and contractors, is addressed in the statute expressly. There are about 6 items in there that are in the statute that need to be in or should be in your cybersecurity policy. Those include, identifying this, various threats and how you're going to respond, and there's a training component in there as well that applies to any employees. My understanding is this board doesn't really have any employees; it just has board members, so we'll have to look at that as well. But in any event, hopefully most of those things are addressed in what Steve has already created, so that we don't have to reinvent that wheel. If there's things that we need to add to it, certainly that are specific to this board, we can certainly look at those and go ahead and do any sort of amendment or addition that we need to do to bring that policy as being functional for the board. But it's certainly something that as audits go forward in the future, that we want to make sure that we have. I don't think that there's going to be, or at least my understanding is that there's not going to be cybersecurity policy police out there checking to make sure if you have a policy come July 1st, but we want to be as close as we possibly can, to that date. I think it's going to be a lot like public records policies where the auditors, ask to see it. Okay, check mark, star, you've got one, kind of a thing. Frankly, they're kind of numbers people, so I don't know that they're going to look into the technical part of it, but we want to make sure that technical part is good to go. And I think Steve's been with the county for a long time, so I think he's probably drafted something that is a good workable policy that we can just sort of build on and covers those bases. It's a matter of protection and good public policy. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Again, it was something that Rob and I just started discussing yesterday. And we'll pull Steve's policy and see what it says. Be back with the board in July and see where we go from there in terms of adopting something.
All right, Chris. Yeah, 3 of us on this board are already on another board where that's being discussed.
Mm-hmm.
And, the way I look at it is it's a risk management transfer. All right. So I'd like to have you, if you could, give us copies of Steve Lewis's policy in advance.
Certainly.
So we can all look at it. But my whole point is, since we don't have any IT infrastructure and don't plan to, then the idea of all this is to be sure the risk is properly transferred to the proper entity, and make the entity responsible for complying with the code and assuring us annually that they are complying with the code, which to me meets our obligation under the statute.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really what I'm looking at here, is total risk transfer away from the board. So I'd be interested to see what Steve has on that.
Yeah, no, I totally understand where you're coming from, and frankly, part of my discussion with Rob yesterday was that, the county has to have this in the first place, and we certainly don't want to create something duplicate to what the county is doing, but the county should be complying with all of those things in the first place, and I understand the board wanting some assurance that, you know, that the offices that are involved with this board, such as the engineer's office, you know, are in compliance and can give some sort of an assurance on an annual basis. So I understand where you're coming from with it.
All right. Well, here's another question then. All counties' NCAs, it appears, at least the one we're on, is creating its own policy.
Mhm.
Is this proper going forward, or should all the NCAs be under the same policy the county has?
I can't answer that.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah.
As far as the NCAs are concerned, and,
'Cause it's a
you know, I'm
county
not the legal advisor to the
Yeah,
NCAs,
no,
so.
that's what I don't understand, is, they're pretty much separate entities from the county offices, is that it? So they can create their own policies?
If you qualify as a political subdivision under the statute, which means that you're a body corporate and politic that's smaller than the state, you have to have one. What that looks like could be different for different entities.
Okay.
Again, there's 6 different things that are in the statute that are supposed to be in your policy or covered by your policy. And, you know, there would be different ways to write that, draft that, or incorporate it that would be specific to those entities. And, you know, certainly we want to look at whatever, you know, Steve's put together and see if it's something that's workable for this board. I presume that it probably is, but we'll take a look at that, and I'll certainly forward, I can forward it to Rob. Rob, can you forward it on to the board members
Yes. All
to
right.
have a copy in advance then?
Okay, thank you, Chris.
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you. Do we need to pass it before July 1st? Should we be having a meeting in June?
I think you're supposed to have it by July 1st. Again, I don't think that there's going to be cybersecurity police that are out there on July 1st that are
Yeah.
looking to make sure that you have the policy. I think they're going to check it as a part of your next audit to make sure that you have it in place. So I think having it in place as soon as possible, either before or shortly after July 1st,
Okay.
will satisfy the auditors. So I think, I'm not sure when the July meeting is scheduled. I'm assuming it's probably the first half of July. It's
Yes.
probably
July
sufficient.
8th.
Yes, July 8th.
So I think that's probably sufficient for making sure that we have something in place as soon as possible or as close to that date as possible.
Thank you very much.
Sure. Any other questions?
Thanks for the explanation.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Chris.
All right, on to Resolution 2026-03, approving plans, specifications, and estimates for improvements to Stockwell Road and authorizing the county engineer to advertise for bids. Rob?
Yes, thank you. As I sort of teed up in my report, we have completed the plans and specs for this project. Our schedule would be to advertise for bids within about the next week, and then receive bids in June and have a contract ready for you at the July 8th meeting. Current estimate for the project is about $950,000, which is within the budget we had identified up front in the project agreement. And so this project would act and look very much like the Beanoller project that we undertook a while ago. The county engineer would essentially handle all the management and construction engineering. Basically, the TID board would be paying the invoices, or SI would be paying the invoices, I should say, and then issue reimbursement invoices at the completion of the job. So glad to answer any questions.
Any questions?
No questions. I'll make a motion, we approve this resolution.
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Good to see the project moving forward. Thanks, Rob, for everybody's efforts on that. Any other business? All right, I know we just talked about it, but it looks like the next meeting, so it sounds like we won't need June.
The only thing that we would have would be the discussion of a cybersecurity policy, and Chris Betts and I have some work to do on that, so I'm just not sure that that warrants a June meeting at this time. So I've been planning that we would not have a June meeting, and so
Okay.
July, I think, works for our purposes, my purposes at least.
July 8th. Hopefully that works for everyone. I likely won't be here, but I don't need to be here, so as long as we have a quorum. All right, if there's nothing else.